guys, thanks for joining me today. We are going to work on this beautiful birthday card. The flowers in this card are 6-petal flowers, and we just did 3 the same, smaller sizes and different colors. So we're just going to kind of roll with the same theme. So I think I'm going to make it a little closer over here on the edge, and I just kind of like to make squiggly lines for the petals, and then kind of connecting but not all the way, just connecting a little bit. And once you kind of get it all laid in place, you can kind of play with the petal shapes and sizes. And this is going to kind of be our big one. I think I'm going to make this one a little different. And this is just rough outline. So when we actually get to painting and drawing with our paintbrush, the lines are going to be totally different. So one thing I liked about this one was that it kind of was behind this other pink one. And so I'm going to kind of move everything off, of that. I think these ones are just going to be 4 petals. With the blue flowers, I think I'm just going to have them kind of coming out, something like this. And these are truly just, 4 petal, fun little daisy style things. I'm just making these kind of broken lines because we're going to lighten it up anyway. And then I think from there, I am just going to kind of make them overlap, and that's fine. I tend to get really hard-nosed about a lot of this stuff, the flowers, and like, oh, there's a random leaf there. That doesn't make sense. But I'm trying to let go of some of that. That's part of my watercolor journey right now. And just really, because when I look at other people's art, I don't see that or say that. And it's one of those things like, the things that you say to yourself, would you say it to a friend, or would you say it to your child? So I kind of want to be, nicer to myself in that way. And I'm going to also leave some room for leaves in here, and in between. And then I think to balance it out, I'm just going to do, one little set here. Okay. Oh, that looks très magnifique. Beautiful. Love that already. Okay, so now I'm going to take my kneaded eraser and just lighten these lines a little for myself. And I got the inspiration for this card from Ellen Cremini Trent, who is a fabulous watercolor artist on YouTube, and she was an illustrator, and just her techniques are just so freeing and loose, and she just, encourages me to have fun with it and all of those things that I enjoy. All right, that's good. And one of the things I like to do, because I don't like having this beautiful painted card and then just this white background. And I've kind of developed this new technique. Well, it's new to me. It's not new to the art world, where you wet both sides of your watercolor paper. So instead of taping it down, we are going to wet the back pretty liberally. We're going to flip it over. We're going to wet the front. It's going to create this section where it holds it down for us, and so we don't need tape. And I just use my hands to just kind of ensure that we're pressed on. Just using a really light wash of this Phthalo Violet. So that much color I'm just going to push around the whole page, and that's how light it's going to be, just that much. But I'm going to focus it more on the section that would have no color, that's going to have our greeting, you know, that kind of stuff. And I like it to have a little bit more dimension kind of around the edges, you know. Not really a border, but just darker spots here and there. So I'm just gonna kind of try and create that visual interest. And then I think that's perfect. It's so light and subtle. There's not much going on here to impede our, you know, colors that we're gonna do for our flowers. Not that it would, it's so light. That's lovely. So we're gonna let that dry. And when we come back, we're gonna begin on our flowers. Okay, so our underpainting is dry. For the middle flower, I'm gonna keep with the same kind of pinky. I've picked a Alizarin crimson. You could use, if you don't have that, a purple would be pretty. It's just kind of like a deeper red. And then for the two side ones, I'm going to stick with an orange, which I've used Geranium Lake mixed with a little Windsor yellow. If you don't have those colors, you could do cadmium red light mixed with cadmium yellow, you know, any sort of version of a peachy pink, whatever you want. So I'm going to start with a really light wash of this Alizarin crimson. And I'm just going to kind of follow my outline, but I'm going to leave some white spaces in the leaves, just highlights. I'm just using a dilute version. And I like to make sure and kind of leave an interesting middle section as well. It's not going to matter so much in this composition because we're going to put an actual center. Add in some darker shades in the middle just while it's still wet. You know, just kind of spread it up and out. So we're going to start on our orange, but we're going to, you know, work here last. So I'm going to do the same thing, just a really diluted version of Geranium Lake and Windsor Yellow that I've put together. And I'm just going to start just the same way. You know, just leaving some highlights, creating an interesting middle. And if you are into the bleeds, then, you know, go for it. Let them touch, let them do their thing. I usually like bleeds, but I'm gonna kind of make this one just a little more precise. And I can always come in with my darker color and make the definition a little bit more. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing with now just a deeper concentrated version. Oh, that's pretty. I'm going to do the same over here on this side. So I think I can move on to my little flowers here. And I'm going to switch to a smaller brush. For the larger ones, I was using a size 8. But for these smaller ones, I'm going to move to a 4. And really, it's whatever you're comfortable with making these. These are going to be so imperfect, they're going to be perfect. I'm going to try and do a little cobalt violet mixed with some French ultramarine. I want it more on the blue side, but I just wanted a tint of purple. So I think that's pretty. Yes, that's what I'm looking for, exactly. So a little more blue than purple. All right, so I'm just gonna start and just kind of trace around what I've done. And I'm gonna actually leave these a little open. That was looked kind of neat last time when I did it. So I'm just gonna play and see. And I like how they, they come out like that, like totally imperfect. And I just imagine that that's really how these little like violas look. And I think what we're gonna do is just add some more detail into the leaves as they dry and stuff. We'll add. We won't leave them sparse like this. A little bit more water. And it's just a real light touch. Using mainly the point of my brush and just kind of letting just letting the brush kind of do its thing. Okay. And here's where you can play around. You can grab a smaller brush. You can kind of draw out some of that color if you want to make it kind of like that viola-esque face. And this too is another reason why it's nice to have that kind of underpainting, because these aren't really like a stark white underneath either. And so this on these lighter ones, you can kind of come in and, draw in little detail, just kind of play around. And so I've mixed up a more concentrated version of the same color we did here, which is the Geranium Lake and the Windsor Yellow. And I've added a little bit more Geranium Lake in it just to kind of, keep it in the same shade family, but intensify the color. And we are going to use this to kind of elaborate on the detail of the flower. And this is where you can use the color to maybe give detail where you lost it in the wash. So for example, where some of the flowers begin and end, the petals, I mean. And then there's always, a more well, not always, I don't know, but a more concentrated version of color in the middle. So now we're going to do the same here. And again, this is just letting the viewer know, what they're looking at, basically. And so we're just, simulating the flower shapes and the highlights and things like that. The center of the flower and all that. So basically in the middle here, we've used the Alizarin crimson. So we're just going to do that, a more concentrated version. I'm not going to mix it with any other colors. We're just going to have it be that. And so just going to do the same technique, starting in the middle, kind of making these lines, and then I'm just going to keep going around and then making some longer, wider, but really focusing on making the center know how I want it to look. All right, so now I'm going to mix up some greens for our kind of stems slash vines and some leaves mixed in here. And I love Hooker's green, one of my favorite greens. It's just such a deep, rich green on its own. I'm also going to mix up some of that with some raw umber, just for a deeper green. All right, I'm going to switch to my size 2. Okay, so I think for these, I had them kind of coming out, doing something like this. So I don't really remember where these came from or where they went, so we are just going to go with it. And then I'm going to come in with my size 4 again and create some pretty leaves for these pieces. So we can do one right here, kind of coming out. All right, so I've added in some leaves, added in some filler, and one of the things I like to do for filler is just make these little kind of loopy, swirly pieces to just kind of like poke out and, you know, fill in, and then we can always add some flowers, some buds to them, and then we can add just some real pretty buds of whatever color. You can look and see, oh, I want to, you know, want a dash of purple or some prettier pink, or, you know, whatever you want in there. So our center of our flowers is dry, so we are going to add in our darker centers. So I like to, you could do sepia, would be a really pretty color because it's nice and dark. Sepia is one of my favorite browns. If you don't have sepia, you can mix in a little bit of raw umber with neutral tint or just a tinge of black. I'm gonna start with kind of a concentrated version of sepia in here. And basically I'm gonna fill in the middle, leaving kind of like a highlight spot wherever you want to leave it. It can be different on all of them. But just kind of making, you know, our center area there. You don't have to fill it all in. You could leave some, you know, more than just the one spot. And then from here, we are going to kind of shoot out, you know, our little stamen. And we're going to put little dots on top. You can do these as sparse, as thick, as thin, as long. You know, it's just kind of up to you and what aesthetic you're going for. But I kind of like to do them haphazard, you know, and then go around with the same kind of technique with the dots. It kind of goes with the flow of what we created here in the center. Oh, that's beautiful. With my 4/10 brush, which is what we did to kind of make the detail in here, I'm going to add some indigo to the center of these little daisies, just to even further do the details. So this is going to be kind of like the same dark thing here, but we're just going to do just little dots. Okay, I'm going to use my size 4. And I'm just going to do more stippling. You know, I'm going to kind of create, you know, something a little more interesting at the end as far as buds. All right, so I think our leaves are pretty dry. So I'm going to come in with the size 4 and just add in that little bit of detail. Just, you know, where I think it would go, you know, deeper, darker at the base type of thing. And just kind of, you know, lightens up as it goes further out. Can even take it into these smaller ones if we want. There you have it. A beautiful card for any occasion. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope that this helped you to get out there and be creative. I hope it inspired you to paint or to put a collage together or whatever creative way that you do things. I hope that this motivated you to that. So make it a great day today, and I'll see you next time. Bye guys, thanks for joining me.